How's it going, everybody? Thank you for coming back to the channel. If it's your first time here, my name is David Aguilar, also known as Ariel Austin, and I'm a drone videographer and photographer here in Austin, Texas. And in this channel, we'd like to cover a lot of things from drones to photography, videography, different types of lenses, and just anything that has to do with Austin and photography. Today, we're going to be talking about the not so new, but still a great camera, which is the Sony a7R III. Now, when the Sony a7R III was first released back in October of 2017, it quickly became a favorite amongst photographers for its high resolution, wide dynamic range, and fast autofocus. And even though it's almost 5 years old, the Sony a7R III is still a great camera to use in 2023, especially now that it's at a lower price point than it was when it first came out. When it first came out, the camera was at $3,200, and now it's listed at $2,500, but you could find it at some places for about $2,000. And the reason that I chose this camera over the Sony a7 IV, when I went into a local camera store here in Austin, which is Precision Camera, they were having a sale on the Sony a7R III. So it was originally at $2,500, which is the same price as the Sony a7R IV, but it had its own rebate, which was $500 off. So when I went in, the camera was $2,000 straight. Now, what I ended up doing was trading in my Sony a6600 because one, I didn't really use it as much as I thought I was going to, and two, it's a crop sensor camera. So I wanted something that was gonna also be full frame like the Sony a7C, but I really wanted something that focused with photography. And ever since the Sony a7R III came out, I was hearing nothing but good things about it, and so for the longest time I always wanted it, but like I said, it was $3,200 when it came out, so it wasn't a camera that I was looking to touch. But when I saw it on sale, I thought to myself, well, this is perfect, because since we just started doing real estate photography, one, a lot of real estate agents want portraits and headshots, which this camera is great for, and two, it is such a great camera for luxury real estate photography. Now, one of the biggest reasons why the Sony a7R III is still a great camera to use today, even in 2023, is because of its high resolution. Now, it has 42.4 megapixels, which makes it capable of capturing incredible levels of detail and clarity, which is why I wanted to use it for luxury real estate photography. Right now, we are out here in Dripping Springs, Texas, filming 2 homes at the same time, both worth $1.2 to $1.3 million. Now, the way that we're doing this is that John is going to be taking on one home and doing the video work on that one, while I'm doing the photos on another home, and then we're going to be swapping after lunchtime, and then I'm going to be doing the photos on the other home, he's going to be doing video on this home. Now, the camera that I like to use for the wide shots of the home to get everything in is going to be the Sony a7R III with the Tamron 17 to 28, and that just allows me to get all of the room and really focus on the details that I want on specific homes. To me, the Sony a7R III, because it has so many megapixels and it's such a great camera for photos, I like to use that for the wider shots. And for the more artistic shots, I'm using the Sony a7C with the Sony 85mm lens. And to me, I just love the depth of field that this lens gives. So that's what I like to use for the more artistic, tighter, artsy shots. I got the Godox GM55 monitor. So using this monitor allows me to get better view of the photos and see where the camera is focusing a lot more. You know, no matter what kind of camera that you use, they'll have a small monitor. So having something like this that's a little bit bigger, brighter, allows you to get better photos. Now, both of these houses are 2-story, so we're gonna be going up and down. What I like to do first is just check out the rooms, get a spec of what everything looks like, so that when I go into these rooms, I'm understanding what I'm gonna shoot and how I'm gonna shoot it. So without further ado, let's take a little tour and see what this house looks like. Another reason why the Sony a7R III is still a great camera to use even 5 years later is because of its wide dynamic range. This camera is capable of capturing incredible levels of details in both the highlights and the shadows, which is especially useful when shooting in challenging lighting conditions. This is such a great camera for photographers who want to cover such a wide range of light and shadows in their photos. Not only that, the autofocus on the Sony a7R III is actually really good. So if you're doing anything like racing cars or capturing sports or anything that has to do with speed, the autofocus on the Sony a7R III is still good even though it's an older camera. Now, a lot of the newer cameras have a lot quicker of an autofocus, but even when this camera first came out, that was one of the things that I heard so much about, which was its autofocus and how quick it was and how good it was in analyzing things that were moving really fast and still being able to capture them. Now, ever since the Sony a7R III came out back in 2017, Sony, Tamron, Rokinon, and so many other different manufacturers have been coming out with really well-priced lenses. So now, shooting with the Sony a7R III, you don't have to buy the $2,000, $3,000 lenses. Tamron and Rokinon make lenses for hundreds of dollars that work well with the Sony a7 III. Now, one of my favorite lenses that I like to use for real estate photography is the Tamron 17-28, and it works so well with the Sony a7R III. So if you're looking for a really great combo to use for something like luxury real estate or real estate photography, or something that has to do with covering wide ranges like landscape or sports, I highly suggest the Sony a7R III with the Tamron 17-28 because that's what I use so much for so many things that I do personally. Now, my final reason for saying that the Sony a7R III is still a great camera to use today is because of the battery that it uses. So the battery that it takes is the MPFZ100, and that's the battery that all the new Sony cameras have been using, which have been giving them much longer battery lives. And this one also uses it. The great thing about the MPFZ100 is that you could literally use it for all day shooting. Now, there's times that I'm filming with the Sony a7C, but then I'm doing photos with the Sony a7R III, and when I'm on projects like that, these two will last me all day and I probably never have to switch batteries. So if you're a photographer out there wondering if the Sony a7R III is still good for you to use, I highly suggest that it is. If you could find it at a price point that I did, whether it's for $2,000 or if you can get it for trading stuff in like I did, I highly suggest you get it. It's also really good for videography. It does such a great well for video, and there's times that I've had to use it for video. But for photographers, like I said, real estate primarily is what I use it for. Portraits is another one. But also when I'm out doing street photography, sometimes I'll keep this in my bag. So I've been using this way more than I thought it would, and like I said, to me, it's really been a great camera body. I did not expect to own it, but I'm happy that I do. Now, if I have the opportunity to get the a7 IV over the a7R III, would I? Yeah, 100%. Just because I do so much video work, I would rather have two really well-made videography and photography cameras rather than having a camera that is primarily focused on photography. But since the Sony a7C has been killing it with a lot of my videos, there's no reason for me to even trade this in. And like I said, if anything, I would rather keep this and then buy the Sony a7 IV so that I can have two primary video cameras and one primary photo camera. If you're a photographer who's looking for one of the two, like I said, this is primarily made for photographers, so I would go with this one. And like I said, those 42 megapixels, just so good. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you guys have any questions about any other products, Sony products, Tamron products, DJI, whatever it is, I'm gonna do a what's in my bag for 2023 because I've updated the majority of my gear. I still have a lot of the old stuff, but I do have a lot of new gear that I'm just itching to talk about. So keep a lookout for that video. But once again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all the new subscribers, and I just thank everybody for tuning in and watching these when I let them out because that really means a lot for me. Until next time, I'll catch y'all on the flip side.